Welcome to the Psychedelic Diaries. I am Ray Christian, and oh boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we'll discuss concussions, the challenge with sacred medicines, and of course, experiences on high doses of psychedelics. We will be joined by Daniel Carcillo, CEO of Wesana, for a deep dive and a soul search. But as usual, let's kick things off with a nugget and a noodle. In today's news nugget, the sooner state may soon become a psilocybin state. An Oklahoma state government bill has been approved in the House, and the sausage is still getting made on this one, but House Bill 3414 may fully pass, and if it does, it would legalize psilocybin-assisted therapy and significantly reduce the punishment for consumer possession. Okay, state. Okay. And as for the noodle, something I've been noodling on of late, it's too much talk about sacred rituals and psychedelics. The sacred stuff can be a part of it for some, sure, but different strokes for different folks. Just like some people can be turned off by talk of patents and clinical trials, others can bristle at the mention of sacred medicines and sacred rituals. Of course, high doses can be very spiritual, but that spiritual experience is between the traveler and their maker. There's another word for this sacred fodder: religion. Middle class psychedelics needs a middle of the road approach. And a lot of people are engaging psychedelics now. I know I've been talking to our end users every day on TikTok, and they don't necessarily want to hear about medical assays, but they also don't want to hear about sacred rituals. High dose sessions are actually pretty simple. Engage the compounds with respect and intention. That's it. That's the list. Speak to middle class users in a language they understand. Give them a safe, simple solution to support their psychedelic soiree. And what does that look like? Something to noodle on. Our next guest is the CEO of Wesana Health, a two-time Stanley Cup winner, and has been an inspiring critic of the NHL of late. Daniel Carcillo, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ray.
Okay, well, let's dive right in, Daniel. This Venn diagram overlap of traumatic brain injury, or TBI, and psychedelics is fascinating. And you get a peek behind the curtain with the work you're doing at Wesana and also your personal story. What has you excited about what psychedelics might be able to do for TBI?
Thanks for asking. So, before I found and was invited to a decriminalized city to partake in a high dose psilocybin ceremony, I went through the medical system, spent close to $500,000 of my own money to go to concussion clinics, CT brain banks to try to understand what happened in my brain and how I could fix it. Did a lot of research, a lot of reading, and heard a lot about neuroplasticity and then waking up brain hemispheres that were shut down. In this context, we're talking about physical trauma, but we can talk about emotional or physical trauma. And so doing that, not finding relief and losing a lot of hope, to the point where I was suicidal. I was lucky enough to be invited to a farm and experience the medicine that saved my life. And really, it saved my life and it brought my brain back online. It did everything that the doctors were telling me they could do with things like neurofeedback and stimulation and advanced diagnostics and other pharmaceuticals. Here was a medicine that I took that woke up my right and left brain hemispheres, started to take away my symptomology or lessen in intensity. And I was completely blown away and hooked. And it's been 3 years now that I've, to your point, been using this regimen in a very intentional way of high and low dose psilocybin. And I feel grateful that I've found the recovery. And I chose to take it through a medical context in the FDA because my reality and the survivors that I talk to we need a diagnosis, concussion survivors, and then we need a medication. There's no FDA approved medication for us right now to address our symptoms.
Wow. Well, sometimes the difficulty in uh, diagnosing CTE, I think they said like to fully know that it's happening, it's obviously post mortem. And in some ways, it seems like, uh, given the symptoms you were seeing that were so aligned with what we know about CTE, it seems pretty possible that you have had it or suffering from it. And now you seem to be on a very different path. And it almost seems like you might be patient X that's blazing a path on what is possible with psychedelics. So very exciting. And I appreciate you doing that and kind of testing it on yourself in a way. Speaking of which, it seems like you've kind of got to baseline. You were struggling and now you're at baseline. And Daniel, I love how Wesana talks a lot about mental illness, but also performance. And I'm curious because you guys are uh, getting a peek behind the curtain on this one as well. How do you think we approach proving that psychedelics can improve cognition, creativity, performance in general?
So, to your point, I was dealing with early onset dementia, most definitely. The symptoms included slurred speech, headache, head pressure, insomnia, impulse control issues, memory issues, short and long term. I lost 40 pounds. Uh, to your point, getting back to baseline, like I would say I am much better than baseline. I am
Huh.
by far the highest operating version of myself, and take that for a grain of salt because I was a professional athlete for 12 years and I won 2 Stanley Cups, and I've never felt better than I do today sitting here now. So, we talk a lot about what these medicines can do in a medical context, a spiritual context, but there's not enough being talked about how potent they are as an anti-inflammatory and an antioxidant. And I've used CBD in conjunction with psilocybin, and CBD is the only patented neuroprotectant on earth, and it's patented by the U.S. government. It got patented in 2003 as
Hmm.
a neuroprotectant against neuronal death, which is definitely associated with not only depression but dementia, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's. So, I don't want to say too many forward-looking things, but my blood work that I continue to test every 6 months, and my brain that I continue to test every 6 months, the tests keep getting better, and I keep feeling better. So, as long as that continues to happen, you know, I may be patient X, but you can go on Reddit and you can look. There's hundreds of thousands of people that have used similar medicines and regimens that I have essentially cured themselves of what was ailing them.
This is really compelling stuff. I appreciate that story. And yeah, I mean, as CEO, I ran a tech company for a while. Heavy lies the head that wears the crown. And you can't just be a baseline to be running a high operating company. And you are clearly doing that. So, this idea of the highest operating version of yourself, I love that phrasing. I played around with this idea, this silly term of the Mozart zone. After a large
Hmm.
dose, you are the most brilliant version of you. You kind of get
Hmm.
you have the sense of resilience and intuition of an adult. Then you get the sense of creativity and wonder of a child. And it seems
Hmm.
like you are operating at a high clip right now. And I think the Usana story is the evidence of that. Looking at what you've done recently, uh, you've had impressive partnerships. You've got an acquisition under your belt, and I think you're working on some pretty cool medical growth. And this drug development path is just titillating. Daniel, as you look back at the last 12 months at Wisana, what's a harder lesson?
Hmm. Business is all about people and the team that you have around you, and
Hmm.
it has to people in your organization have to align with the mission. The mission is to help people, and then they have to align with the metabolic rate at which people and CEOs operate. And, you know, I know one speed. This was a big reason why, I testified for Initiative 81, right, in Washington, D.C. And of course, decriminalization and showing people how to grow mushrooms at home, et cetera, advocating for a grow gift model, it would help tens of thousands of people. That's not why I was put on this earth. I believe I was put here to go through what I went through, to recover, and then help millions of
Mm,
people. And the way that the system is set up, our reality, our medical system, is that the only way to do that is to go through the FDA and to go through Health Canada and to go through MHRA in Europe. And that's what we're doing. Um, and you have to do the work, right? There's certain things that you're beholden to do because of the way the system is set up. And I reconcile all of that with, I'm going to do those things because this is going to help millions of people once I get it approved. And things like patents, where, it's a very sticky word, but we don't, in our organization, surround IP around changing any molecule or patenting any type of plant or fungi. We get our IP from combining, right? And we also get our IP from, method of use. Like what I've created for myself is novel and inventive, and I should be able to protect that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And so it's an exciting pathway forward. We, as a company, as you mentioned, we have clinics and boots on the ground because I'm very, very adamant that I want to help people today. So the ways that I do that is I educate and I try to raise awareness through platforms like yours. So thank you for having me on. And then we have clinics where we address symptomology, right, for people suffering now from depression, anxiety, whether it's emotional related, trauma related, or physical trauma, people are suffering. So we're helping those people now with 3 clinics in Illinois. And then we're developing the
mm.
medicine of tomorrow. And we have an FDA meeting tomorrow, which is, I couldn't be happier. And we look forward to that feedback. And it's a big milestone on a journey ahead that our whole team is excited about.
I love that concept. It feels like sometimes this industry, while there's so much at stake, you've got these polar opposites. On one side, you got a little bit too much woo-woo stuff, and on the other side, you've got some that trying to patent soft lighting, and other companies doing some things that might be a little bit of a bad look. But at the end of the day, you're right. Uh, Making money and developing IP and patents, ain't nothing wrong with that. It's okay to make money, and especially if you can then go help people with that. And so I'm totally with you. And stepping back a little bit, psychedelics have changed me. I had about a 5 or 6 year period where I did high dose sessions once a month. And you caught my eye, Daniel, because on one interview, you said, "No, I'm on the medicine right now." And that boldness, that honesty, I think it feels important. So thank you for being a fucking maverick in this space. I think your story is powerful and poignant. And I saw what you did on the Players Tribune, moving. And what you're doing is special. So thank you for what you're doing. I'm curious if you can look at the totality of it. You touched on it a little bit. What has your psychedelic journey been like?
um, the reason I'm still alive today is because of what I was introduced to. And it's not just high dose, it's also an at home therapy regimen that I've created with
Mm,
subperceptual doses in combination with cannabidiol and other plant medicine and other fungi that you can go get at Whole Foods. Lion's mane that increases BDNF, and reishi that helps with immunity, chaga, agarikon, turkey tail, combining these things together to find what works for you. And I'm still, like I said before, right? I test my blood, I test my brain, and as long as I'm healthy, I will continue to use this medicine in an intentional and ethical way. And it makes me a better father.
Hmm.
creates a better relationship with myself, which is first and foremost. I talk a lot about people needing to be really selfish. If I'm not, then
Hmm.
everything else in my life will fall away. And I've just never experienced, with all of the things happening, right? Like what you do as a CEO, spinning numerous plates, managing people and missions, etc., hitting timelines, deadlines, taking other people's money is very stressful. And um, so you have to be, extremely on point. And this regimen has allowed me, like I mentioned before, to just continue to be in the moment. I think, as a CEO, the more that you're in the moment, the better decisions you're making,
Hmm.
right? The more data that you're able to process. And so it's an exciting,
Hmm.
you know, exciting time to be able to um, you know, stay in that moment longer, and then be able to, be healthy enough to, you know, um, talk about this, and hopefully it helps people, and again, this is just one tool, right? Like we talk about this, Ray. There's other tools, like focusing on your sleep, focusing on your diet. Um, those are really big deals that go into this. This isn't a miracle thing. This isn't a miracle. Nothing is. There's no one shot fits all. I work out, I exercise, I have breathing techniques, I prioritize my mental health, and when I do that, then I'm able to operate at my highest level. This is psychedelics, subperceptual high dose, whatever is one of the tools that I use.
Ah, that's wonderful. And I love that idea about having to be at your peak performance and being in the moment as a CEO. Sometimes it feels like it's like you keep running into these paradoxes where at any moment, should I let my employee make this mistake or should I teach them something? Should I focus on today's goal or should
Mm.
I keep our long term vision aligned? Should I partner with this group or should we do it ourselves, build or buy? All these little mini decisions. And there's no right answer. You can't just have a blanket theme. It's got to be in the moment each time. And I think you're a walking, talking example of what it looks like to be a high performer. So, one quick deep dive on to the ineffable, Daniel, if you don't mind. I'll share one quick
Mm.
story I had, and I'll kick it to you. Uh, I met a deceased family on a psychedelic trip, and I'm not into the paranormal, and yet uh, it was them. Like it was them, and I wept. And I felt deeply connected to the not just them, but my ancestors, and it felt in this strange way that all the stuff they do uh, it's kind of a gift from them to us so that we can have this reality right now. And it really was a moving experience for me. And I'm curious for you, what is one mystical experience that still resonates?
So 7 months into this journey, after I found psilocybin CBD, and I got my brain scans back with no abnormalities, I went to Peru with the Heroic Hearts Project, who and Jesse Gould. So, I encourage people to look them up. They're a great 501c3 connecting veterans with psychedelic therapies. And in the high jungle of Peru, I met Chris and Nori of La Medicina, and I went there to confront my fear of death in order to be more in the present moment with my young kids, because I felt like it was something I needed to do. I had a cousin who passed away early on in my life, in my childhood, and I realized it was pretty traumatic. So I went there to confront that, and also, I wanted to explore the idea of getting warrior spirits together in
Hmm.
veterans, executives, and athletes, and subsidize some treatment for the vets. And I was researching everything right at that point, and I knew that ayahuasca, DMT, the combination has amazing, neuroplastic events, right? So it was just going to enhance my recovery. So I went to do that, and similar to you, I had a lot of death in my early on in retirement, like, and then a lot of birth.
Mm,
In Native American culture, they believe that those are tightly intertwined
mm,
and they're not separate events. And so, I went there, and it was my grandparents that I really wanted to talk to. They were by far the closest people in my life, and I wasn't able. I felt like I wasn't able to say goodbye properly. My grandmother died of Alzheimer's, and my grandfather passed away really quickly, and I didn't have a visa quite yet, and so I wasn't even able to go back to Canada to be by his side in his last moments. So that really weighed heavily on me. And then
mm.
I had Steve Monador, my good teammate, who was cleared for 19 concussions in the NHL. He passed away, and Ray Emery passed away. So just a lot of death. And so my intention was to, I think we all have that question, right? Where do we go? I think a lot of us, well, for me, I mean, I think of it a lot. And um, yeah, I was able to get those answers through 3 nights of deep dives of Aya. And on the third night, I was able to communicate with everybody verbally. And, psychedelics are more about, it's less about like the woo-ha, ooh-ha. And for me, it's always been like a feeling that they give
Mm,
me. And that feeling, when I saw where they are and when I was conversing with them, was just unconditional love and peace. They all came to me at the best versions of themselves.
hmm.
And my grandmother didn't have Alzheimer's. My grandfather was like, he was a chiseled guy, right? This Italian guy, just like, he was amazing, but he was like soft, right? And he showed me a lot of love. And same with Ray, dancing, perfect white teeth, skin perfect. Steve, same thing. My cousin, same thing. And, you just leave there and know, or feel that everything is okay, and you don't necessarily have to worry, right? And also, I'm not in control. I love Alan Watts, right? Where he
Mm,
talks about, do you do breathing? In one of his lectures, like, do you do it, or does it just happen? Does your blood course through your veins? Are you thinking about that constantly, or does it just happen? If you really sit back and take a deep dive into, looking at what we actually control, and then, how we live our lives, and how we think and feel actually, I think, has a lot more to do with the results that we get. Um, it's, I could talk about this for a very long time. I've always kind of been a curious person and a deep thinker, but yeah, I mean, the main thing that this medicine's allowed me to do is definitely love myself more, and
mm.
then internally, um, love others, and love my mission, and love my teammates, and love the people that I work with. And when things come up, I communicate them immediately. So um, yeah, I feel very lucky to have been introduced to, Aya, psilocybin, and other compounds as well.
Mm. Wow. That was beautiful. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate opening up and the vulnerability and the share. And I'm also a fan of Alan Watts. I don't know if it's causation correlation because of the psychedelic journeys, but one of my favorite concepts of his is this idea that you are God playing a game of hide and seek with yourself. So I appreciate that mention. This has been a titillating deep dive, Daniel. Thank you. We got to transition over now to the speed round soul search. Okay. Question number one. Daniel, how has your NHL experience helped you with tactics and strategies as a CEO?
Attention to detail and work ethic. That is what I've learned in the NHL, and that's what I bring every day to Wesana Health.
Ah, I like that. Okay, Daniel, it's an average Friday night and it's been a long week and you want to unwind. You have all of the mind altering substances at your disposal. What's your mix?
Probably a large Tyson 2.0 cannabis bandito.
Tyson 2.0 Cannabis Bandito. I'm going to have to check that out.
Hmm.
Okay, question number three. Daniel, you get to relive the life of any historical figure. Who you got?
Robert Plant.
Robert Plant, lead singer of Led
Well,
Zeppelin.
I mean, is that a historical figure? Maybe John Bonham? Any historical figure that came before cell phones would be great.
Hmm, I dig that. Okay, fourth and final question. You get to go talk to Daniel Carcillo from 10 years ago. What piece of news about you do you think would tickle him the most?
I wouldn't want to. Um, without Daniel Carcillo 10 years ago, there wouldn't be me right now. And I really love me right now. And um,
Hmm.
so I would just say, keep doing what you're doing.
Okay, I appreciate that. You don't want to spoil the 10-year road. How about this little bonus question to kick things to end things? Daniel, who is one person that's had a dramatic impact on your career?
Steve Monador, who showed me how to live a happy and fulfilling life without, opiates and alcohol. And um, so, yeah, Steve was instrumental in helping me realize that I was hurt and that I had to leave before something bad happened, and really instrumental in, the go forward with some of the diagnostics that we use in our clinics to help concussion survivors recognize that and help them make a decision to possibly stop what they're doing because of the damage they're incurring. So, yeah, miss him every day.
Daniel, wow, thank you. Beautiful answer. Steve Manador, I bet that would warm his heart to hear that. That was a fantastic speed round soul search. Wrapping things up, Daniel, for the people that are interested in you or Wesana, where can the viewers find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Daniel Carcillo 13. You can find me or Wesana at wesanahealth.com. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of the same handles. And we're about to release a new website next week. So look out for that, and look out for some positive news from our meeting with the FDA tomorrow.
Good stuff and good luck with that. Daniel, this has been a fantastic show. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Thank you for watching this episode of Psychedelic Diaries. I'm Ray Christian. See you next time.